We are on day 261. The reading today, I think, is extra timely for where we are at currently in society, with stuff going on. We're in Daniel, starting off Daniel 1 through 3. Some of the stories we're going to read today you may have heard before. I'd almost guarantee the last one, we're going to read Daniel 1 through 3. The last one most people have probably heard of, but I think it's fitting for where we are today. So let's jump straight in. Daniel chapter 1. In the third year of the reign of King Jehoiakim of Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and laid siege to it. The Lord handed King Jehoiakim of Judah over to him, along with some of the vessels from the house of God. Nebuchadnezzar carried them to the land of Babylon, to the house of his God, and put the vessels in the treasury of his God. The king ordered Ashpenaz, his chief eunuch, to bring some of the Israelites from the royal family and from the nobility, young men without any physical defect, good-looking, suitable for instruction in all wisdom. Knowledgeable, perceptive, and capable of serving in the king's palace, he was to teach them the Chaldean language and literature. The king assigned them daily provisions from the royal food and from the wine that he drank. They were to be trained for 3 years, and at the end of that time they were to attend the king. Among them from the Judahites were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief eunuch gave them names. He gave them the name Belteshazzar to Daniel, Shadrach to Hananiah, Meshach to Mishael, and Abednego to Azariah. Side note, quickly, I don't know why we remember Daniel as Daniel, but we remember the other three as their Babylonian names. I've always found that strange. Daniel determined that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine he drank, so he asked permission from the chief eunuch not to defile himself. God granted Daniel kindness and compassion from the chief eunuch. Yet he said to Daniel, I fear my lord, the king, who assigned your food and drink. What if he sees your faces looking thinner than the other young men your age? You would endanger my life with the king. So Daniel said to the guard, whom the chief eunuch had assigned to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. Let us be given vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then examine our appearance and the appearance of the young men who are eating the king's food, and deal with your servants based on what you see. He agreed with them about this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of 10 days, they looked better and healthier than all the young men who were eating the king's food. So the guard continued to remove their food and the wine they were to drink, and gave them vegetables. God gave these 4 young men knowledge and understanding in every kind of literature and wisdom. Daniel also understood visions and dreams of every kind. At the end of the time that the king had said to present them, the chief eunuch presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king interviewed them, and among all of them no one was found equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they began to attend the king in every matter of wisdom, and to understanding that the king consulted them about. He found them 10 times better than all the magicians and mediums in his entire kingdom. Daniel remained there until the first year of King Cyrus. Chapter 2. In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams that troubled him, and sleep deserted him. So the king gave orders to summon the magicians, mediums, sorcerers, and Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams. When they came and stood before the king, he said to them, I have had the dream and am anxious to understand it. The Chaldeans spoke to the king. Aramaic begins here. Oh, sorry. The Chaldeans spoke to the king, and then so no, Aramaic begins here. May the king live forever. Sorry, traveling does a wonder to my mind. May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation. The king replied to the Chaldeans, My word is final. If you don't tell me the dream and its interpretation, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses will be made a garbage dump. But if you make the dream, if you make the dream and its interpretation known to me, you'll receive gifts, a reward, and a great honor from me. So make the dream and its interpretation known to me. So they said, "Hey, tell us your dream, and we'll tell you what it means." He's like, "No, I want to make sure that you actually got this. You tell me what I dreamt, and then you tell me what it means." Um, Verse 7, they answered a second time, "May the king tell the dream to his servants, and we will make known the interpretation." The king replied, "I know for certain you are trying to gain some time, because you see that my word is final. If you don't tell me the dream, there is one decree for you. You have conspired to tell me something false or fraudulent until the situation changes. So tell me the dream, and I will know you can give its interpretation." The Chaldeans answered the king, "No one on earth can make known what the king requests. Consequently, no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked anything like this of any magician, medium, or Chaldean. What the king is asking is so difficult that no one can make it known to him except the gods, whose dwelling is not with mortals." Because of this, the king became violently angry and gave orders to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. The decree was issued that the wise men were to be executed, and they searched for Daniel and his friends to execute them. Then Daniel responded with tact and discretion to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to execute the wise men of Babylon. He asked Arioch, the king's officer, "Why is the decree from the king so harsh?" Then Arioch explained the situation to Daniel, so Daniel went and asked the king to give him some time so that he could give the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah about the matter, urging them to ask God for the heavens for mercy concerning the mystery, so Daniel and his friends would not be destroyed with the rest of the Babylon's wise men. The mystery was then revealed to Daniel in a vision at night. And Daniel praised the God of heavens and declared, "May the name of God be praised forever and ever, for wisdom and power belong to him. He changes the times and seasons. He removes kings and establishes kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals the deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I offer thanks and praise to you, God of my ancestors, because you have given me wisdom and power, and now you have let me know what we ask of you, for you have let us know the king's mystery." Therefore Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had assigned to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He came and said to him, "Don't destroy the wise men of Babylon. Bring me before the king, and I will give him the interpretation." Then Arioch quickly brought Daniel before the king, and said to him, "I have found a man among the Judean exiles who can let the king know the interpretation." The king said in reply to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, "Are you able to tell me the dream I had and its interpretation?" Daniel answered the king, "No wise man, medium, magician, or diviner is able to make known to the king the mystery he was asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has let King Nebuchadnezzar know what will happen in the last days. Your dream and the visions that came into your mind as you lay in bed were these: Your Majesty, while you were in your bed, thoughts came to your mind about what will happen in the future. The revealer of mysteries has let you know what will happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have more wisdom than anyone living, but in order that the interpretation might be made known to the king, and that you may understand the thoughts of your mind. Your Majesty, as you were watching, suddenly a colossal statue appeared. The statue, tall and dazzling, was standing in front of you, and its appearance was terrifying. The head of the statue was pure gold. Its chest and arms were silver, its stomach and thighs were bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were partly iron and partly fired clay. As you were watching, a stone broke off without a hand touching it, struck the statue on its feet of iron and fired clay, and crushed them. Then the iron and fired clay, the bronze and silver, and the gold were shattered and became like chaff. From the summer threshing floor, the wind carried them away, and not a trace of them could be found. But the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. Your Majesty, you are the king. You are King of kings. The God of heavens has given you sovereignty, power, strength, and glory. Wherever people live, or wild animals, or birds of the sky, he has handed them over to you and made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. After you will arise another kingdom, inferior to yours, and then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which will rule the whole earth. A fourth kingdom will be as strong as iron, for iron crushes and shatters everything, and like iron that smashes, it will crush and smash all the others. You saw the feet and toes, partly of a potter's fired clay, and partly of iron. It will be a divided kingdom, though some of the strength of iron will be in it. You saw the iron mixed with clay, and that the toes of the feet were partly iron and partly fired clay. Part of the kingdom will be strong, and part will be brittle. You saw the iron mixed with clay. These peoples will mix with one another, but will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with fired clay. In the days of those kings, the God of the heavens will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. And this kingdom will not be left to another people. It will crush all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, but will itself endure forever. You saw a stone break off from the mountain without a hand touching it, and it crushed the iron, bronze, fire, clay, silver, and gold. The great God has told the king what will happen in the future. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is reliable. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell face down, worshipped Daniel, and gave orders to present an offering of an incense to him. The king said to Daniel, "Your God is indeed God of gods, Lord of kings, and the revealer of mysteries. Since you were able to reveal this mystery, then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many generous gifts. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and chief governor over all the wise men of Babylon. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to manage the province of Babylon, but Daniel remained at the king's court." Chapter 3. King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue, 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to assemble the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the rulers of the provinces to attend the dedication of the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the rulers of the provinces assembled for the dedication of the statue the king had set up. Then they stood before the statue Nebuchadnezzar had set up. A herald loudly proclaimed, "People of every nation and language, you are commanded, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, drum, and every kind of music, you are to fall face down and worship the gold statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. But whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into the furnace of blazing fire." Therefore, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, and every kind of music, people of every nation and language fell down and worshipped the gold statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Some Chaldeans took this occasion to come forward and maliciously accuse the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "May the king live forever. You as king have issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, drum, and every kind of music must fall down and worship the gold statue. Whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. There are some Jews you have appointed to manage the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men have ignored you, the king. They do not serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." Then in a furious rage, Nebuchadnezzar gave orders to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to these. So these men were brought before the king. Nebuchadnezzar asked them, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is it true that you don't serve my gods or worship the gold statue I have set up? Now if you're ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, drum, and every kind of music, fall down and worship the statue I made. But if you don't worship it, you will immediately be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. And who is the God who can rescue you from my power?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, Nebuchadnezzar, "We don't need to give you an answer to this question. If the God we serve exists, then he can rescue us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he can rescue us from the power of you, the king. But even if he does not rescue us, we want you as king to know that we will not serve your gods or worship the gold statue you set up. So they're going into this knowing they know God can rescue them. They know it. But they also know he might not. And they're okay with that. That's a powerful, powerful message. And think at least at the time of recording this, if you're watching this when it's being published, maybe not as much later on down the road, but that's something that maybe strikes a little close to home. There's been some recent things attacking Christians worldwide, but in America even. So, verse 19. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with rage, and the expression of his face changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He gave orders to heat the furnace 7 times more than was customary, and he commanded some of the best soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the furnace of blazing fire. So these men, in their trousers, robes, head coverings, and other clothes, were tied up and thrown into the furnace of blazing fire. Since the king's command was so urgent and the furnace extremely hot, the raging flames killed these men who carried Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell, bound, into the furnace of blazing fire. Then King Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in alarm. He said to his advisors, "Didn't we throw 3 bound into the fire?" "Yes, of course, your majesty," they replied to the king. He exclaimed, "Look, I see 4 men, not tied, walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Nebuchadnezzar then approached the door of the furnace of blazing fire and called, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, your servants of the Most High God, come out." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire. When the satraps, prefects, governors, and the king's advisors gathered around, they saw that the fire had no effect on the bodies of these men. Not a hair of their heads was singed, their robes were unaffected, and there was no smell of fire on them. Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel and rescued his servants who trusted in him. They violated the king's command and risked their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I issue a decree that anyone of any people, nation, or language who says anything offensive against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be torn limb from limb and his house made a garbage dump. For there is no other God who is able to deliver like this." Then the king rewarded Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Man, that is some good stuff. And think about, in the moment, like I said, they didn't know if God was going to rescue them. They knew that he could. They knew that he could, but they didn't know if he was going to. And they still had faith in him. Question 1. How does Daniel and his friends' refusal to compromise challenge us to remain faithful in a culture that pressures us to conform? I was kind of talking about this a little bit when we got to the end of chapter 3. But there is, and not everyone's going to see it the same. Not everyone's going to face it the same. But there is increasing pressure, even attacks on Christians in America today. We've seen it around the globe for a while. America has been relatively safe, but I'll mention the Charlie Kirk stuff. Like recently, that happened. Like within the last week, that happened, and that was I've seen some people asking, was this because of his religious beliefs or his political beliefs? I don't think you can really make a distinction, because even if it was his political beliefs were informed by his religious beliefs. So either way, it's because of his religious beliefs. That is, about as much of an attack as you can do on somebody. So that is there. Now, it's not maybe to the level as other countries, and we may never get to the level that we see in other countries. But think about, would you be able to stand strong in that moment? Even if it's not that extreme. If it's being ostracized from a friend group, or whatever, made fun of or talked down to, or whatever the situation may be, can you stand strong in your faith? Can you trust that God has your best intentions in heart? He's going to do what is best for you, but also what is going to bring him the most glory, which ultimately is the most important. We have to think outside of just this life in this world. Like, this is temporary. If you're a Christian, then you have to believe this is temporary. It's not a permanent thing. Eventually, this will be gone. So, question 2. What does Nebuchadnezzar's dream in chapter 2 teach about God's sovereignty over human kingdoms? We've seen this played out over and over and over again. Even nations that don't follow God, God is sovereign over. He can do things to entice them to go and do something, or scare them back so they don't do something. We saw, like, he would have nations attack Israel as punishment on Israel, and then he would punish them for attacking Israel. And so God is sovereign over everything. Whether you worship him or not, whether you think he is or not, he is sovereign. Period. We see that, like I said, we've seen it time and time and time and time again, and we see that again with this dream of Nebuchadnezzar. There's these kingdoms that are set up, and God just destroys them. So, question 3. How does God's deliverance in the fiery furnace point us to his ultimate deliverance through Christ? So, we see with the deliverance in the fiery furnace, there's a fourth person there, right? It's Jesus. Shows up, and he stands out from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he stands out from the fire as well. There's something about him that is different, that is noticeably different. They were able to tell, like, hey, this isn't those other three guys, this is somebody else. In the midst of uncertainty, of not knowing what was going to happen, I imagine there's probably some moments of doubt, of being scared, not wanting to die. The Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego probably faced. But they put their trust in God, regardless of the outcome. And that's the thing. They didn't even say, we know our God can save us and he's going to save us. They said, we know our God can save us, and even if he doesn't, we're still not going to worship you. So they had the right mindset. They had the right perspective on this, that it's not just about escaping things in this life. It's not just about having a pleasant and life here and getting rid of the bad stuff here. There's something far, far greater and far more important than that. They had the right perspective on that. So Daniel is off to a good start. We're going to keep plugging away through that. It's a pretty interesting book. There's some prophecy later on we'll get to in probably a couple days or so. But there is a lot in it we'll be walking through, and you're going to want to stick around. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as all those things help the channel grow. If this has been a blessing to you, you can share it with somebody else. It can be a blessing to them, and word of mouth is the best way that podcasts grow as well. So that can be something that helps this channel as well. Come back every single day. We're going to have more content every single day. Bible reading plan. We're going through the Bible an entire year, different teachings, all kinds of just really great biblical sound stuff like that. So you're not going to want to miss it. Come back, subscribe. Thanks. God bless.